Right, we're good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, guys, welcome to podcast number 7. We've got 2 more podcasts before this one, so you should get to this one by the 3rd week. I'm joined by Craig Seaton. How are you doing, mate?
Very well, sir.
Yeah, it's been a while since we did the last podcast, hasn't it? Last week?
A week.
Yeah, we tend to do back-to-back podcasts and then give ourselves like a week break. It's not intentional, is it? It just happens.
Works how it works out.
Yeah, the circumstances, the scheduling as well is quite challenging as well. So
yeah, we aim for one a week, don't we?
We try and
chats, and if we can do more, we do more.
Yeah,
just because we enjoy it, but there's no pressure, there's no force.
Yeah,
nice and easy.
Yeah. So the last 2 podcasts, we went quite deep into it, and we managed to hit the 57-minute, 58-minute mark on both of them. Maybe in the last one, we actually went further than that. This time, I think we're going to slow things down a bit more, go back to the grounded stuff, and, well, we say that, and then we'll go balls deep halfway through. But, yeah, so where we're going to start this podcast, mate?
Love was the topic, right?
Yeah, so we were just discussing the topic of love before we started shooting. So should we talk about what we perceive as love in terms of how society deems what love is? So that goes into what the social construct of love is. And then we can talk about our own personal experiences of love and what transcendental or universal love is as well. So do you want to start off with what social and the societal definition of love is?
I couldn't tell you what their definition is, but I think the way that it's perceived is based on if you want to love somebody, they take certain boxes. I love this job, or I love that thing. It essentially creates a feeling. Or if it's something you want in a partner, basically it clicks in. Something it clicks in. But that isn't love. That isn't what love is. It's, you do this for me, so I love you. Now that can't be love, because true love is unconditional. So unconditional is, it has no limits, it has no bounds. It just loves regardless of whatever you do, which is a mother's love. You know, is the common example is the motherly love. Like, no matter what you do, you might get told off, you might get a slap wrist, but your mother always loves you. So that's unconditional love. And it's to take that and try and use it in a romantic sense, which I think is very difficult to do. I don't think it's actually realised by many people, because we have fulfillments to hit. Now, from past relationships, I've been through the process where a romantic love has turned into just love. And
right.
Love being back to the sense that you can associate with your mother or your family or your friends or, what you do. That it's a different kind of love. It's not, I'm no longer in love with this person, I love this person. To me, they're kind of like separate things. But that in love with somebody, I think, is just, what is that on top of standard love? That's infatuation, that's enjoyment, that's pleasure, that's a big degree, possibly a full degree of unconditional love too, because if you're with that right partner, you can go through everything, and that love and that bond is still there in the romantic sense, which I think requires work. I think relationships that are ongoing, they don't just come for free, they do come for work, because you have the honeymoon period, which is its own kind of love, and then you have the maintenance work after that, and however long the relationships go. But it just doesn't come for free. People have to work on building these things and maintaining love and other elements that go into a relationship besides, I just love this person, because we still have needs and we still have wants and desires to attend to, and fulfillments from the partner. So that's something different from love, if you ask me. It's different from the universal love, all of what love is. Love, again, unconditional, doesn't require you to do anything, doesn't demand anything from you. It just loves, like the motherly love, which is divine love, right?
Right, yeah. So going into what you just said there, I think there's a separation between what romantic love is and unconditional love is. I think you can have the two mixing together, but then you have to also at the same time realize that romantic love is a very evolutionary process. It's built into us so that, for one purpose, which is procreation, so that we continue the species forward. And I think we kind of forget that beyond the romantic love, beyond the so-called falling in love with a person, and saying that you have this great amount of sort of this deep feeling of love that you get for someone that you are romantically entangled with. I think there comes a how do I describe it? I think it's a dance. To describe love, that sort of love, the romantic love, I think it's a dance. The best way to describe it is a dance. So there's a step and a retreat. So one person has to step, the other person has to retreat. If both people step, they clash heads. If both people retreat, then people tend to say, I've fallen out of love. And it's supposed to be this nice, gentle sort of dance going towards this, this path in life. And I think that people get mixed up when they get into positions where sometimes they don't want to be in a dance with one person. They want to dance with another person. So they want to switch partners, or they want to go to someone else. And because we've bound ourselves to this attachment towards one person and having love for one person, it tends to conflict with us, especially early on in life. I think once you get to the ages of 25, 26 and a bit older, you tend to figure out, okay, I know what I want from a person, or I know what I want from a romantic partner, and you're willing to settle or sort of conform to that. So I feel like when it comes to the other side of love, the unconditional love, like you said, the love that a mother has for her child is completely different to the romantic love that obviously a person and their romantic partner has. And I think our goal is to, again, try and achieve that sort of love and trying to integrate that into our romantic love, to obviously not have a motherly child relationship, but have some sort of grounding in that love. And I think most people always talk about love as in falling in love. Why don't we just walk into love? We fall into love for a reason. It's because it's a feeling of just, it sweeps us off our feet almost. And some people are driven for that feeling. I remember when I was dating in my early life, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was chasing that feeling, and I didn't care about. So what I realized is, as soon as I felt as though I had got the person's attention that I wanted to get the attention of, what would happen is I no longer had a feeling of, okay, I want to now settle with this person. I was chasing that feeling of falling in love with someone, and then once I was done, I would move on to someone else. So again, that came from a position of ungroundedness, of just going with trying to chase that feeling. So I've got a few friends who've said, I've fallen out of love with a partner, and I always say to them, I used to think that love was a doing, it's a verb basically. I thought love was a verb and a doing word, but now I realize is that love is a feeling of who you are. So love is who you are. So it's the way you carry yourself. If you're a loving person and you care about everything, then generally speaking, falling in love becomes an easier process, and even attachment towards that love, trying to detach from it becomes slightly easier. Whereas if you're someone that, you're adamant that you're not going to fall in love, and you're adamant that you don't want to be in a relationship romantically, and suddenly someone comes along and sweeps you off your feet, that's when you get caught up into that web, falling in love. So that's my perspective of it. I don't know what your experiences has been when you were growing up, when you got into your first relationship or your first high school sweetheart.
Yeah, different. I mean, being with my current partner now, Abs, that was the first time I think I've really felt real love, like proper love, because of the situations and the times that we came into each other's life, and just it was heart-based. That could also be due to my own spiritual and energetical progression, and waking up to different energies and feeling what's going on. The other relationships were all lovely, all great, but I was always kind of aware that they were finite, or it was never like, that's love, you've been slapped by love and you know it. And I always quite long relationships, from 4 to 5 years into 3 going on to 4 years. So I've always really been in a relationship, to be honest, and it's interesting because I'm a very independent person. But yeah, getting with my current relationship with Abs, there was just something there, and it was a pull towards her, something that I'd never felt. And we had an experience where I was taking through meditation, we do some breath work, and that moment something changed, and it was like, I knew that there's love here, and I can feel it, and I've never felt anything like that feeling before, and it's terrific. It's amazing. It's such a powerful and strong feeling. So that's really my only actual awareness of feel in love with a person, because it's very easy to go with our partners, go, I love this thing, I love this person, I love this about them, and it not actually have any substance. We say it because we fall into the trap, or we want love, or we think, amount of relationships I know, females particularly, who saying, no, this is the one, this is the guy that I'm going to be with, and I want to be with this person forever, and all that stuff's really sweet and nice, but is it coming from a healthy place, and is it really legitimate? Are we hoping, and are we not really experiencing love? Because the way I see it, and it can also be to do with my own level of independence, but is to have boundless love is to not say this is forever, or this is not forever, or it's just this one person. It's like, you are where you are, and love will grow, love will change, you will grow. So I do struggle to say things that are finite and this is forever, because love is everything. Like love is what life is. And even with when we encounter fear, it's the duality of life is you've got love and fear. My friend Mickey Owen, who's definitely worth checking out on Facebook and Instagram, he talks so well about love and fear, and the opposites of that they are. That love is the creation of everything, and fear is just the other side, to say no, go back to love. And that's it. That's why there is nothing to actually fear, or any process that the ego is worried about or concerned from. It's like, well, it's come from creation, and creation is love. I shared a post this morning just about love, and it was a wonderful little paragraph in my book, which I don't have on hand right now, but it was saying how the mathematics and of what humans are, and the energy levels, and how we all intertwine with each other, and the numbers, the only one number that isn't divisible is the number one, and that number one is where everything's created from, the one source, one consciousness, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's come from this one thing, which is love. And that's the bottom line, is it can only go back to love. Like, no matter what our personal experience is, we still have that number one that we're all divisible from within inside of us. And yeah, to bring that love into everything is a wonderful goal, to see love everywhere that you go. And I've definitely had days, more so over the last 2 years, where I'm encountering this experience more and this feeling more. That's actually come from what you said about being in love with yourself. Like, it's actually come a lot from that. Is if you love yourself, and this was the quote that I shared along those lines this morning, if you love yourself, you can then love outside yourself. You can then love your friends and your family, and then maybe you love a social group, and then maybe you love a country, and then maybe you love the world, and then you love the universe. Like, it's the selfish love, or the selfless love is the same thing if it's not done for the ego, but it's done for what you really are and who you are, and the fact that you're alive, and you're finding love in that, and it will just ooze out of you, because there's no conflict in love. So people saying, I love life, or I love that, and well, is there conflict? Yes. Okay, so you don't love everything yet, unless we love the conflict. Like, to enjoy, you can still do that in a playful way. Like, I'm not competitive really, other than with myself at times, but playing table tennis, having the right opponent, is I will go 100%, and it's not very often, not that I'm an incredible player, but you find the right skill set, so I don't really get to go out all the time. But when I do, I love that competition. Nobody, doesn't matter who wins or loses out of it, it's just right, I get to go 100%, and I love to do that, even if it's just in ping pong, or when I'm talking, or breath work. I'm in love in that state, and it's okay, you're onto something here, follow that path. And that is, to me, the path of alignment coincides with love. You'll always find your way to love through that. And yeah, man, like, love's incredible. So
let's talk about that then. You mentioned self-love. Now, there are a lot of posts, and there's a lot of, obviously, in the times that we live in, modern day society is pushing this idea of having self-love, or this whole situation with mental health problems is because we don't have a form of self-love for ourselves. So how do you create self-love in an environment where, let's say, if you were brought up in a toxic family, you don't have that self-love, you don't have that appreciation that you mean something to a bunch of other people. So how do we cultivate the practice of love in that environment?
I think there's always something that somebody loves. So whether you love skateboarding, or you love music, or you love just chatting with your friends, or you love cooking, you love fighting, whatever, there'll be something you love. Your energy has to go towards that, I believe, because especially if you're coming from a broken and corrupt background, and you've got the world against you, and that's the card you've been dealt. I also believe that will be for a reason anyway. Maybe that's because those tough times and those rough experiences that we've had, that we spoke about before, what shape us and will take us to another route is, I went through this mental health issue, so now I can help these mental health people. I did this meditation course, now I can help people with meditation. Like whatever it is you will find something that you can give back through it. So working on what you love is enough to take you there. It's just seeing that because you find love then and you know what it is and you know how good you feel doing the thing that you love. Why wouldn't you want your life to be about that, right, to be dishing out that love? But it's hard to discuss that to somebody who's never experienced what care is around them, or if they've got a family who aren't helpful or a bad system and friends. Like, it's difficult, but there'll still be something that they really like. And everybody has that. There's no excusing that. There is something everybody loves, and it's using that as a thread to pull back through. Get past the shit, get past the crap that we've been handed, if you want to, because at the end of the day, and as harsh as that might sound to some people, it's like, it's down to you. Yeah. If you know what you love and the rest of your life is fucked up, just follow what you love. It's better than having to take your own life if things get really serious. It's like, just fuck that off and be selfish in the sense of do what you love. Yeah. And it's discovering that flame. Everybody knows what it is, though.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. I think to discover self-love is to discover what you love externally first. Figure out a career, hobby, etc. that you love so much and you're passionate about. Pursue it and understand where that feeling of love comes from. Why do you love that thing? And the more you start reflecting on that, the more you're able to translate that into self-love, if you want to call it, to realize that, okay, I have so much respect for myself that I will not do something that I don't enjoy or I don't love, basically. And that transcends, that goes inwards. So doing something external can usually transfer inwards if you are aware or conscious about it. And I think when it comes to, again, coming back to the whole, love is romanticized, because I think that is the only way these days you can describe love to someone. When you say you love someone, they generally think that you love them in a romantic way. Now, I have got a couple of friends, my best friend Jade, I love her, but it's very platonic. But for most people, having that sort of love is not a pursuit. It's not, why are you chasing that sort of love? The only thing that person could relate to that sort of love is when a mother wants a child. She has this deep feeling of, I want to create this new life in me and I want to, nurture it and bring it up. So to really experience that is to go outside, figure out what you want to do in life, and peel back the layers and understand why you want to do it. And then it comes back to, okay, it's because I have so much self-respect for myself that I will only pursue a path that makes me happy. So I think that's very important. This whole self-love notion, how do we tie it into the mental health problem? So, obviously in today's society, a lot of people are living very close, isolated lives. And so last night I was looking at, have you ever read the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger? So this friend of mine that I spoke to, that we mentioned before this podcast went on air, that I met in the gym, Julian, he's a Native American lad, and we were just talking about how, no worries. Just give us a break, guys. Craig's cooking some moss. Is that what you're cooking?
Sea moss.
He's cooking sea moss, and I think he's left the boiler. What have you left on? The gas on, so he needs to sort that out. So
it's looking good.
We'll do a cut and we'll come back. So what were we saying? So we're back. How's your sea moss doing?
Sea moss is looking good, man.
Yeah.
102 minerals in the body. That bad boy gives you 92 of them.
Wow. Okay.
In one mouthful.
Okay.
Full of iodine, clears brain fogs. Great for the skin. People, I think Kim Kardashian's using it at the minute as well.
Oh really?
Ab said to me this morning, she's like, have you seen this? Kim Kardashian's using sea moss. I was like, see, it's great.
Right.
Use it.
Okay.
And good. Good if somebody's got that position of power and influence. Yeah. And sea moss, man, love the stuff.
And you don't want to burn it, do you?
Definitely don't want to burn it.
So he sorted that out, and we're back to the podcast. So what were we saying? So this Native American lad, Julian, he was just explaining to me about his culture, his Native American culture, and I said to him back in the summer, I was really deep into the culture and exploring what the strengths were of the culture. And I remember watching a podcast with Sebastian Junger and Joe Rogan, and he talks about his book Tribe. So he basically describes how when the settlers moved over to the native lands, the New Americas, a lot of them that got kidnapped by the natives, when they were obviously sent back to their settlements, they never wanted to go back. They wanted to go back to the Native American settlements. Whereas the other way around, there were cases where the settlers kidnapped a lot of the Native American people, and there wasn't a single recorded case of Native Americans saying, "Oh, I actually want to stay with you guys."
Yeah.
And the people at the time were trying to figure out. I think Franklin also wrote in his journals. He wrote about these he documented these scenarios that were going on, but he just couldn't make sense of them. He didn't understand what was going on. So Sebastian Junger talks about this in his book Tribe. He says that the reason why that happens is in a society where, again, first of all, the Native American society was more egalitarian, so it was focused on a small number of people, 50 to maybe 200 people, and each person has a role in that group. So if you're the cook, and maybe there's another 4 more cooks, your importance in that group is pretty important. Again, so if you decide that actually I don't want to be part of this group, or I'd rather move on, they need to fill that role. So your part in the actual society is very important, and we know that human beings require a feeling of belonging. So that's what they had, and that was one of the reasons why the settlers, when they moved back to their normal lifestyles, the normal Western Christian lifestyles, they hated it because they're the sense of isolation and depression kicked in. A lot of them committed suicide, funny enough. So they wanted to go back to the Native American settlements. And so Sebastian Junger talks about this. In the modern day society with a larger group of people, like in Manchester, how many people live here? 500,000, 600,000?
Roundabouts, I think.
Yeah, so in that kind of society, when you're walking around, how many people do you come across a day that you recognize on the street? You probably come across maybe 10 people or less than 10 people that you recognize on the street. Most times, especially in bigger cities like London, you're going your entire day, maybe in an entire week of just meeting strangers and no one that you recognize. And that has an effect on the human brain and the human psyche. You have a feeling of isolation. And then you add social media to it and the internet, and it just becomes a very closed off world, even though we should be more sort of connected with other people, but we're not. So in that environment, having going back to self-love, it's very difficult to almost breed self-love in the society if people are already closed off. If you want to make it a big thing and to be able to integrate it fully, you need to understand that people are better off if they feel, first of all, they feel like they belong to society. So whatever their skills are, they can use it to make the society go forward. And if they don't feel like that, they'll feel isolated. The second thing is to have smaller pockets of human beings in a society. So don't go with 500,000 in a city, maybe go with maybe 1,000, 2,000 people in smaller environments. And I found it really fascinating listening to his podcast with Joe Rogan and then reading the book. So I think maybe that's what is a step forward towards eliminating mental health, or going towards reducing mental health as a big societal problem. I think because when you're loving your role in life and what you do and who you are, and because that fits into a piece of society, you have your place, you're naturally going to be happier. It does make more sense. And that displacement of so many people, one, there's way too many of us who don't know what we want to do with our lives, as a consequence of how society is, not just the conditioning or what people have said that we should do, but really the way that the society is built up is we're on a 9-to-5 structure. Are you in love with that? Nope. Who's in love with that? Maybe if you're doing your job, but then it's not 9 to 5 because you should be doing it because you love it. Do you know what I mean? The things that are required of us for sure to keep things going, but you compare that to the examples of the tribes and the way they are, it's ran so different and life's so different. And the examples are Pocahontas and Avatar, the same stories, that Western person goes over, goes to destroy them or whatever, and realizes these guys are onto something, they've got a good way of living, and then they want to preserve that and help that side out, because there's so much more feeling and meaning involved than the ones that we accept in today's society. But it's to see that and then to change that through love, not change that through force, because I feel it could be better. I mean, it definitely can be better. But to have love in the process is loving right where we are now. It's okay, we see society isn't the best way, and it needs to have conversation about it. Do that with love. Let's talk about, I see that person's angry and pissed off over there. Trying to use that love to go through that.
And again, that doesn't mean you become passive, or it doesn't mean you ignore things or let things go, or that you can't get angry. It's do it all with love. Like be so involved with it, be involved with the moment and where you are and what you want and why you want that change, because it's coming from love, not through force.
Yeah.
And love is its own power.
And the other thing he talks about, and I found this part really interesting, is he talks about the Blitz, the time when we had the Blitz in London, and how people were forced to live in the subways of London, and people were way more closer and united because each person needed to rely on the next person. And they had studies done then, and depression and all the crime rate and stuff went down, same as the 9/11 attacks. Post 9/11, for the first 6 months to a year, people were friendly in the streets of New York. Their suicide rates went down, their sort of crime rates went down, the major crime rates. Whenever there was an authority figure, like a policeman or a soldier or even like firemen, they were cheered like superheroes almost. So it just shows that in times of struggle and adversity, there's a unity and a reliance on unity as well. So people feel more integrated. And as soon as we lived in societies where we've stripped away the dangers of nature, we no longer have that sort of desire. And a lot of war veterans talk about PTSD of seeing graphic things happening, dealing with it in that scenario. They still deal with it in a scenario where people around them that are going through the same thing. But as soon as you pull them out, that's when the PTSD kicks in. When they go back to their usual lives, they have a longing for service, and that service has been taken away. It's like something, if you take away the extremes of life where you're going into war and there's war going around you, there's terrorist attacks, etc. If you take that away and go to something like maybe these people that are athletes, that are on top of their game, like say American footballers or big time football stars or soccer stars, as we say, as it's known universally. Once they retire, a large portion of them now don't have that feeling of being a hero anymore, because you're no longer in that game anymore. So that feeling is missing, and a large portion of them go crazy. Like there's been cases where the American footballers, especially in the college level football, they've committed suicide because they just can't live without having that feeling of everyone cheering them and wanting them to be this person. And as soon as you take that away, they're no longer that person anymore. You get it with boxers as well, where boxers were on top of their game when they were in their peaks, and then as soon as they've retired, they don't have those thrills anymore.
That's the same with all celebrities, right? And musicians and performers, because they're getting that adoration, is that the word?
Assurance as well.
Assurance. But again, that isn't love. That's, let's take somebody who's performing on stage, sports, whatever. I do this, that person claps, I feel achieved, I feel good. Is that love? No, here's a pat on the back, here's a pat on your head. That's not to take away from, wow, this guy's bloody amazing, look what he can do, I love this band. And you give your love out, you give your energy out, but you go home at the end of the day, and that person who's performing, who's banked on, I need more of that, and that becomes the drug fix. And that accolade of, I am this person. But then that's where we're getting stuck in the character, because we're doing the same thing here, and don't have to be a rock star, celebrity, elite performer, a PTSD in the army. We can be right here, just which it is. People, it's like Instagram, how many likes I've got? Oh, nobody loves me. Nobody's giving me that approval, so I need to do more. Or people took their lives for things like that, and it's mad. And I think if we dialed everything back and look at the root cause, it's if you were in love with life and who you were, there'd be no fucks to give on a real sense. Like, we care, and we're like, that person said that, and it's upset me, and that's okay, be upset. But you're going to carry on, and you're going to get past things because you love yourself and you love life, and things start to bother you less anyway. Especially when you apply sort of spiritual understanding towards those things, and knowledge that how a frame of reality can actually be for one person who looks in that direction. It's just a massive safety net. Life is a safety net.
There's a good way of measuring that. So if you find that you love something and you love it passionately, ask yourself this question: would I still be doing this if I was the last person on this planet? If I was the only person left on this planet, would I still be doing what I'm doing right now? So if you're doing this 9 to 5 job, and I'm not trying to say that people shouldn't be doing these jobs because you have a certain amount of responsibility.
They're necessary for the social structure.
But you should also have something on the side where you can channel your energy towards.
100%.
Because if you don't have that, then all that there is this work life, and then you trying to escape the work life. So people end up drinking themselves, taking drugs, etc., because they don't want to get back to Monday. You know, they get to Friday and think, oh, this is liberation now. I've got 2 days of liberation. They drown themselves in that feeling, and then reality hits and they're back there on a Monday. So it's asking yourself, if I was the only person on this planet, would I still be doing this shit? If the answer is no, then you need to find something else, or try and figure something else out that you would want to spend most of your time doing. So I think that's quite interesting there. Man,
I mean, I'd be breathing and meditating if I was I'd happily go and do that on my own for a year, you know, in a cave. And it is to what you said there is spot on. You have to, if you're in a job routine that you're unhappy with, or your general life circumstances, or you're just seeing things negatively, or the world's dangerous and out to get you and nothing goes your way, acknowledge that we see things that way, but practice to accept that isn't just how life is. There are more options, and we will get there by looking for love and looking for what does make you happy, because you've seen the things that don't. Fair, it's not cool, it's not nice to position to be in, but you have to pull yourself out of that situation. So I know a friend who's years, ever since I've known him, back in the gym I used to work at, years, still the same, because he refuses to see any benefit, but will find self-pity so easily, and the world won't help him. And it's sad, because you can try and show that person as much as you want, or they can, you know, talk to other people, but unless they're actually willing to get out there, and it's unfortunate because circumstances in the past can have done that, the conditioning does that, but there comes a point when we have to accept the self-responsibility. It's up to us to change those visions. Again, I always feel so fortunate and blessed to have found this level of understanding for my world and my reality that helps me all the time. And a big hope is that everybody can find that for them, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be the way that I do or you do it. It's like, know that there's so much beauty and love in the world, and it's just waiting for you to see it. And that can mean you just doing you. Something I talk about often in my breathwork sessions or my talks is whatever you're passionate about or what you're interested in, that's the individual spark. Because I always get so confused about how to disengage the mind and not be a part of anything, not get sucked into ego, and what's ego and what's my true feeling, and am I doing that because I want this reaction? And it gets so confusing. It's like, right, after years of sort of trying to unwind these things, drop all that, just go with love, just go with, right, I feel good from this, and I know I'm not doing anything maliciously that I'm conscious of, or, you know, there's no negative intent. And if there ever is, that can be brought to my attention, great, thanks, I can work on that and let that go. So I know what I love and what I'm passionate about, so I'm just going to throw that out there as much, because that individual spark of who we are, which comes from creation, which comes from divinity, this is again back to that number one that we're all divisible by, is the spark of life. It's creation, it's love, and then that's in us. So whether that's, for me, it's breath work, it's space and the stars, it's poetry, it's bow staff, it's conversations like this, it's meditation. So that's what my life is going to be. That's what I choose my life to be, because you can push it off all the time and go to the jobs that we don't like and get by for the weekend release and then do it again and again, which wherever you are on the ladder, you got to accept responsibility. Your consequences are yours. So if you see that now and go, right, my life's pretty shit and I'm happy and I'm tired and I don't want to keep doing this job, all right, are you putting your time in on the side to do that passion? Because whatever that passion is, keep feeding it. And if that's just getting you through, then it's getting you through, but put more time and energy into it as you can, and it will take you somewhere else. But you have to be willing to take that leap into it, because so many people, like, now there's so many style businesses, right, and so many independent business owners, they're doing what they want to do, and now such an abundant time to do it. And it depends what you want out of it too. Like, I'm definitely not chasing money. Money's great because it can open the door for many things, but I'm already in love with life, so that's just a wonderful side effect to exercise that experience or put more into events to give back more, whatever. But I think you've got to know what you're in love with to already take yourself on the path. You know, hold on to that kite, because that's there throughout your entire life. Love is always going to be there. But it's love for yourself and it's love for life. It's not love on, I love this and I don't love that. It's not a separate and isolated thing. it's all of it. And the more you can encompass from working with yourself and spilling it outwards, it just overflows. Your whole life becomes that love.
Yeah, 100%. I think I want to touch on what you said about the. I think Jordan Peterson talks about this in greater detail in regards to having self-pity. You only have self-pity because you look at things on the external and say, this is happening, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not happy because of my circumstances, my job, my government, etc. And I think he says that the best way to deal with this is to see what you can change in yourself. Figure out what can I do to make whatever I'm doing right now slightly better for myself. And and I think we mentioned it before. I don't know whether it was on a podcast or not, but I think there's a sense, especially in this country, and especially in America as well, where we want to instantly point fingers at the government and say the government's corrupt and it's doing this and that, and this party's doing this and that. I'm just like, what are you doing? Don't worry about the problems of this entire city or this entire this place, this UK. Worry about what you can contribute towards. Change your circumstances. What are you doing to help other people out as well? So I think self-love also comes in that aspect. Compassion. When you have compassion for other people, that directly translates with compassion, self-compassion, and to understand that, okay, I don't want to be tolerating these scenarios. I don't want to be putting myself into these situations where I can't serve people, I can't help people out. And I think that was the path for me. When as soon as I started to turn my life towards service and helping other people out, I started to realize that, okay, this is why I care so much about myself and how I feel. If a circumstance comes up where the money's great, but the actual job itself or the task itself is going to cause a negative effect on and helping other people out. So let's say a product or a company approaches you and says, we want you to be the ambassador of this company, but then their ethics are not in line with what you feel. You should have the sort of, or almost like the audacity to feel inside that, okay, I can't pursue this path, it doesn't resonate with me. I think we get stuck into that bubble as well, where we see a bit of success in our careers, in our lives, or even relationships. We find maybe, so-called 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, and then you want to strive for more. Like, okay, I've got this kind of girl or this partner, can I get a better one? And I think we need to get ourselves out of that mentality, and that's the mentality of where society is pushing us, which is always more. There's always more.
Yeah.
Gain more, and then from gaining more, that's when you start chipping away at yourself. So that's when you start losing self-love, because all you're doing is you're giving a part of you towards a job or a task, selling yourself out almost, and from that you're losing your essence, your deepest core. And I think these days we talk about honor. A lot of people just don't have honor these days. If someone drops a wallet or someone loses their phone and you've seen that person's dropped it, most people will take advantage of that situation, as opposed to saying, actually, this doesn't feel, it doesn't feel right deep down inside, and yet you will take advantage of that situation. So you have to put yourself in the scenario of someone else. How would you feel if you were that person that was had lost their phone or their wallet? Or let's go a little deeper. How would you feel if you were a rich person and you knew that you worked your ass off to get where you are, and people are turning around looking at you and thinking, you don't deserve it, you've just been given this, you've been handed this. So it's having that self-respect to understand that people have just gone through the same stuff that we've gone through. A lot of people, you might get certain situations where people have been given a leverage, that their family is a bit more wealthy, so they have a platform to share this knowledge and help other people out. But most people don't. Most compassionate people come right from the bottom. They've gone through hell and fire to then realize that, okay, I've got myself through that, and now I want to serve the world. And that's where we tend to create the biggest amount of self-love, and obviously also universal love, to give to people as much as possible. So I think that is really important as well. So
share the love, man.
Share the
That's
love,
what it's all about. Two things I want to touch on there. One was that idea of when you lose who you are by doing something like selling yourself off to
a brand or
or a company, a business, but also in relationships it happens a lot. Based on the dominant traits that are more admirable, I think. And going from past experiences, when I changed vegetarian, two the partners, one when I was changing and one when I was with a partner, and she wasn't vegetarian, and those partners they were seeing it as a good example and thought that they wanted to do it, but it would come out sometimes as like repressed, like, oh, it's hard to do this, eat vegetarian, and I want to eat meat. I'm like, do you? Like, it's fine to do that. But that person was then feeling a bit guilty about it, and I completely understand it and get it, because, you know, you see somebody, I'll see it myself, it's, oh, that person's doing that, right, I need to step my game up a little bit. But it's doing it at the right time for yourself, it's having it in your awareness, but not having it in comparison. And something that relationships happen is, you know, they're so amazing. I love love, I love romance, I love, you know, that whole poetic instance of meeting and entwining and becoming one, and you're so like infatuated with that person, and you just become one thing, and you can't do anything but think about them and just want to be with them. And I love that. It's such a beautiful gift that we get to experience. And there's also there's six different Latin terms, I think, for love, so 6 different meanings of what love is, and one of them is that kind of love. I can't remember what it's called, but they've got at least 6 different names for the stages of love, so 6 different kinds of love, which is why that unconditional love is the bottom line love, like that love of creation, that's everything. And then we've just got these different stages of it and different intensities of love. It's not just his love and that's it. It's like, ooh, there's waves up and down. Yeah, same with our emotions. And what can we tap into more? We can tap into all that without a partner or without the family. Like, love is everywhere for us if we open up to it. But yeah, to go back to the point, was that in the relationships, the exchange happens, you get infatuated with that person, and then you come out for air. It's like you've been under the covers, or you've been swimming under the ocean for so long, and you've merged, and then you come out and it's like, and you think, shit, I'm still my own person, and I've still got to do me. And then it's the working of the relationship together to see if those traits work once that initial bonding of love has occurred.
The honeymoon period.
The honeymoon period is on its way out. And again, these are real stages that people have to consider and understand that that's the motion of relationships too. It's not, I was in love with, amazing love with that person, and now it's gone. It's like, well, the love can still be there. It's just you're in a different stage of how you are getting on with that person and what you think about them past the initial high. You know, you get high and then you come down, and the junkie even wants to get high again and again because that feeling was so strong. Or you get on with your life and you try and merge that experience into life because you've understood and learned more from it. That's the process. So yeah, I think still maintaining your independence within a relationship, within your job, within whatever it is that you're a part of, is bring you, like, if we wanted robots and clones and people wearing the same uniform, robots can do that, literally. A computer can do that, mechanical, monotonous, same old, like there's no you involved. It's I'm doing emotions. If it's on automatic and we're not conscious, it's not there. Life isn't there. Life's not there when there's no conscious awareness towards what we're doing. And that's what makes relationships so special, is it's you and me, and we're together in that. You become one thing but separate, codependency with each other. And yeah, it's fascinating. And people go into relationships and this is forever, this is the one, I'm with that right person. I remember hearing that when I was like 20, in my early 20s, we'll be together forever. And even then I was like, it's a big thing to say. But we've got that romantic side for security too, and for love, and to believe into it all. But what if you can just let love be love, and you go through it all and you keep going through it, because really we've got no clue. We'd like to pretend we do, but we've got no, why is there so much divorce? Because people are getting jacked up on those emotions and thinking, this is the one, and then there's a divorce. Like, I
think also, so tying in with what you're saying, is what people don't understand is birth and death is not just a massive extreme. So you don't just come into this world and then you die. There are births and deaths that happen every single day, births and deaths that happen every single minute. So the person you were an hour ago before this podcast is not the person who you are right now. We don't tend to look at that. We want to look at things in the macro aspect of things and not in the micro. In the micro aspect, there are micro births and deaths. And Ernest Becker talks about this in The Birth and Death of Meaning, in a book that he wrote. And he says that the issue when it comes to the topic of love, and especially romantic love, is, let's say you fall in love with a person. In that moment in time, you fell in love with that person, who that person was in that moment in time, and she fell in love with you, with who you were in that moment in time. what usually happens is once you've gone through this cycle, especially once the honeymoon phase has gone, and you start still pursuing your independence, and that's how it should be. If you end up thinking, okay, I'm infatuated with this person and I'm going to try and live a codependent life with this person, and everything has to be based on decisions put together, you're going to clash straight away. But then as soon as you go the other way, which is what you should be doing, but people don't know how to handle this properly, is you live independent lives, but you come together whenever you need to come together, when you want to come together. And in that process, when you go away is when you start developing yourself. You start growing into a different person. And let's say you were saying the example about the vegetarian stuff, and then the partner that you were with wasn't vegetarian. It usually happens in those extreme scenarios. So you as a person are content because you are, if you want to call it, for a lack of a better word, but you are further in life than she is in regards to the process of, compassion. So you obviously have some level of compassion towards animals, so that's why you've given up your desire to eat meat and stuff. So you are there, and for you understand that she is exactly where she needs to be, and you're not pushing your sort of agenda or your narrative on her, and that's fine. What usually happens is that person, if that person isn't secure with where they are in life, they will see that as almost a sort of, like you said, it's a bar that needs to be met, the sort of challenge, that the benchmark that needs to be met. So she will always carrying on living her life thinking, God, this guy is like he's trying to be this amazing person, and he might be, he is this amazing person, and I feel like I'm falling behind and I don't deserve him, all this kind of stuff starts kicking in. It's because you feel this comparison. You want to get to that stage, you want to be that ethical, compassionate person, but where you are right now is not coinciding or correlating with that.
Forced.
Yeah, exactly. So you feel as though there's pressure on you to meet that person, whereas that person has already come down to your level to say it's okay where you are. And I've noticed that in my relationships in the past, where the person feels threatened by me not drinking or not eating meat, etc., and they felt really threatened by it. At the start, it doesn't matter because you're just getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But the more you delve into the relationship and the feelings and all the stuff starts kicking in, and it goes up a notch, then you start to realize that actually, this person is just like way up there for me, and I just can't handle it. And it comes down to just accepting where you are, accepting that the person obviously has died and been reborn and has got to that stage, and you just need to go through your little process. If it ends up that you don't want to do that, you don't want to get to that person's stage, and you like where you are right now, then fair enough. Then you can say, I think we need to part ways, we need to go our separate ways. But divorce and breakups happen because that person, or even the person who's higher up, looks down on the person. See, that's where we have to be very conscious that we're not becoming patronizing, where we don't look down on people and say, look, I'm up here and you're down there, and my ethics are a lot higher than yours, and you don't care about animals and yourself.
It becomes extreme, doesn't it?
It does,
you
yeah.
Just look at any extremist group to see why that doesn't work.
Exactly. So you don't want to get into that scenario, and you don't want to get into a scenario where that person, or you want to almost see those symptoms straight away. See and make sure you reassure that person and say to him, look, wherever you are right now, I'm here to support you. Yeah, I'm choosing to be with you regardless of who you are and where you are right now. I'm actually in love with that, not with the fact that you're going to become this person. Yeah, obviously you want to see the best in people, and you want them to be a certain level eventually, or somewhere in a couple of years, but to never have that expectation take over. And I think that's where most people's issues come in. It's where we look up and think, this person is the most perfect person in the world, and I don't think I can meet up that person, whether that's physically, like in terms of aesthetics, the looks, or whether the person they are inside as well. That can be very challenging. If anything, it's that person they are inside that hurts more. To realize that they've transformed and they've become this person, and maybe in the process that you were with that person, you've seen the transition, so it's made you feel even more isolated and alone and falling behind and thinking, why is this not happening for me? So it's diagnosing those symptoms, talking about it, and that's what usually doesn't happen. We tend to talk about it when we're having a spat. Those issues come up when there's a spat, and then you think, this is not the scenario that we want to talk about this kind of stuff. We want to talk about this when we're both level-headed and we're calm, and we can have a discussion as opposed to a sort of an argument almost. So yeah, I think that is really important, and I think it was good that you mentioned that, because that triggered that in my head. I've had that many a time in the past before, where a person has just said, sorry, I can't date you because you don't drink. I'm just like, okay, like I can't do anything about that. You know, so you just have to let that person go. But sometimes you find someone you know is perfect for you, but they feel as though you are way too high to achieve. Your level is way too high to achieve. So it's understanding that I'm happy where I am right now, and I'm trying to do the best I possibly can. If you're stuck in that same situation, or you're going backwards, then you really need to reflect on yourself, have some self-reflection, and say, I don't want to be the same person in a year's time. I think there's a saying, and it goes something like, if you look back a year from now where you were, if you're not embarrassed, or if you don't feel a little sort of, oh God, I can't believe I was that person, then you're not growing enough. You know, because I look back, and even a year before, you know, from where I am right now to where I was back then, I look back and think there's certain parts of me I just feel, God, was I doing that? You know, and if you have that feeling, it means that you're on the right path. You're growing. You know, you're doing enough to grow. It's when you look back and you think, God, I was the same person, and it happens. It's okay when it happens in the space of maybe 5 years, 10 years, but when it happens in 20 years, 30 years down the line, you realize, fuck, I'm still the same person I was 20, 30 years ago. I'm still going out, getting smashed, you know, trying to have a good time, and I'm like 65 years old. Then you've got a problem. Then you need to really look within and think, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Yeah, I think if you're happy with what you're doing and it makes you happy,
then,
and you're not hurting no one, keep going.
Keep going.
If you found whatever that love is in that thing you're doing, then keep going. But if we're not, and this is it, if we're not happy with where we are, it's not the world, it's us. Something in us needs to be fixed and changed. Not fixed, nothing needs to be fixed, but it needs to be given attention to, and to understand why it's there, because we're not broken or in bits. It's seen, this thing's fucked me up, or I've not been able to see another way. Okay, let's pour some love into it, because it will sort everything out. And I like what you were saying before, you know, isn't it always better in a relationship to have that independence of that person? You know, imagine someone being like, oh, that person's they're vegetarian, or they work out, or they take care of themselves, or they're nice to the neighbours, or I'm going, I like that, I'm going to try and adopt that, and then you grow with it, or going, that's making me feel a bit shit that person does that and I don't, and it's like, okay, why am I taking it that way when I could learn from that partner who's done it and go, okay, yeah, look what she did there, I'm going to start trying to encompass that. So one thing I've always seen with my partners is how caring women are, you know, how so caring and so considerate of other people. For me at least, my girlfriends have always come across that way, and it's stronger than I can be. I know that for sure. I know they have more patience than I do. All of my girlfriends that I've been with, and you know, they can tap into emotion a lot easier than I can, and you know, I can be very short on patience, and it can come back down, or it takes me a bit and I'll come back and I'll say I'm sorry later because I'm not as good as it as they are. But they're incredible. There's always so much to learn from a partner. There always is. But you have to maintain your independence to have that learning and to have that bonding. Otherwise, if you're not getting anything from it, you can't just be on your own. You know, and find relationships that are devoid of love, but they stay there because it's mechanical. I'm still in this relationship, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and they're not happy, and they get married, and then they just get on with life. There's no energy or no spark or no connection. Like, love is also letting things go. Love is saying, I want the best for this, for you, for your own life. And being able to let things go, because you can still have love. You know, things might change slightly on the outside, but if that connection with that person is healthy, and you know, if you took distance away that was required, but you can still maintain a healthy connection, then great. Then you've extended your love to another person that isn't the romantic sense of love. Great way to live. Yeah,
for sure. I think they say that you should try and do one thing compassionate every single day, whether that's, you know, to the extremes where you're helping people in need, or you're also just helping, I don't know, just someone on the counter didn't have enough money to pay for something, and you're just like, here's a couple of quid, so you don't have to worry about sending all the items off your grocery list back and then having to come back. So here's a couple of quid. Just doing tiny little small gestures of compassion, you really goes a long way. And it's interesting you say that about your partners and how they were more empathetic and compassionate, and you were chasing that and you wanted that, and it comes from a place of, So I always had this thing in going back to what you just said. My threat was I didn't find who I was in life at the time when I was in these relationships. I didn't figure who I wanted to be. So when I was in these relationships, and then a partner would say, "Oh, I'm a doctor," or I'm an interior designer, and I've got these properties and stuff. For some reason, that caused a feeling of sort of anxiety in me, and thinking, "Oh God, I haven't got that far in life, or I'm not this far." And again, that I think for most guys that comes into play as well. So it's the fact that women, generally speaking, are more empathetic and caring towards other people, and sometimes women are more driven than men in terms of their career path, because they feel as though I can just grind this out. I don't have to worry about. That's the other good thing and bad thing, is that at least guys, when things are not going right for a guy can just say, okay, I can just ditch this and then move on and find something else. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but generally speaking, guys tend to diagnose that early as opposed to women. Women can just deal with more shit and just get on with their lives.
If you're built into going to child labour, and women do have a higher pain threshold, they'll take more. Yeah,
for sure. So I think it definitely comes back to that nature of just understanding that, I can just grind this out. It doesn't matter if it's a bit of a burden for me, if it's taken away from my character, I can still just graft it out. But yeah, so it's understanding in that position where you get threatened by it, because that part of you haven't experienced that. You as a person hasn't experienced that side of life, and if everything has been shit for you up to that moment and life has gone against you, and you meet someone who's got everything going for them, you can automatically have a feeling of just like, okay, this person has got there, and why is that happening to them, and why is this happening to me? Why am I not there? And that can create problems in the relationship. So even just talking about that part of things, just like saying, look, I'm here in life. I don't have a flashy car. I don't have a big house. I don't have all the money I want. But where I am right now, I'm happy. I'm completely happy. And it's understanding that to be content is self-love. It's to say, wherever I am in life right now, I'm happy and content, and wherever comes in the future, I'm able to deal with those situations. So that's what I've been incorporating in my life quite recently, where you appreciate adversity at the same level as happiness and things that are going well for you, if not more than that as well. So you appreciate adversity more, because we know through adversity, and as we talked about in the previous podcast, adversity breeds growth. Happiness and joyful times, generally speaking, will not create growth in a person. And as a man, you want to be in adverse situations, because that's when the best characteristics are cultured inside of you. They're brought out. When you understand that things are going against you, is when men generally, when they're backed up in a corner, tend to retaliate and respond in that situation. So as a person, as a guy, you should be striving for diagnosing a situation in adversity, and then trying to work towards growth, and then self-reflecting and realizing that part of my life is a huge part for me to grow. And then whenever adversity hits you again, you take it on, and you don't react to it, or you don't feel like you're a victim in that situation. So that's when you take away that feeling of self-pity, or when you have a partner who's doing well in life, you don't push that on them, that insecurity on them. So I feel like that was important as well.
Yeah, because it comes into knowing yourself, doesn't it? As you said, you didn't know yourself in prior relationships, as neither did I. And it was coming more into knowing myself is why one relationship had to end.
Right.
And because the pathways no longer merged, and that's fine. Like, it's fine to also have the maturity and life experience to know that the breakups don't have to be what you've seen on television. They don't have to be the movie scenario.
Yeah.
I'm still very good friends with my previous girlfriend. She's an amazing girl, but she's just a friend, like just a good friend. And when you hit that level of understanding and maturity, it's like, that's it, that's fine. Because if I'd go around and drop something off, I'll go and see her, and she would say that people that she was like, oh, is it awkward to see your ex-boyfriend? She's like, no, we're literally mates. And it's almost a new concept for people, even though it's known that it's out there. But it's, how did you end the relationship, and what were the reasons, and were you honest? Because when you are, shit's done. And for us, the romantic love had just died, and we were just mates for like the last 6 months of the relationship. It was just, and then it goes from that to, it can get quite stale and nasty and snappy then, because we don't want to be there. The energies, and it can be beyond personality. It can literally be the energy that you have and the energy that person has. They no longer work. You came in, you met, you did your thing, the energies worked, you got your lessons, you understood, or whatever time in life you needed or was with that person. It's finished now. You finish your food, go and put the plate away, like wash up, it's done. The bells rang, go home from school, close your eyes, go to sleep. But no, I've got to hold on to this love, and I'm going to fucking force it to work. And like, that doesn't lead us anywhere good. And I always have this rule of thumb: give something 3 to 6 months to be 100% sure. And if you're still questioning or you still don't like it, change it, do something about it, because it's not right anymore. I would say that about getting a tattoo. Know it for 3 to 6 months and then go get it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, what were we saying?
About the being in a relationship and then diagnosing that if things are not working out, you immediately say, okay, let's figure out what's the problem.
Learning what it is. Learning what it is. Oh, that was it. And knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you know yourself and you've defined who you are in a sense, which always will grow and expand, but you stop jumping around from past and you kind of find one or two, and then it comes down into one, and something that we've spoke about before and we'll do in terms of spirituality and philosophy, and the dangers of spending too long jumping around or staying on the flower that you know is going to fall apart when you should be going to taking the next step. But when you know yourself, you merge with the partner or the person who will come into your life for the right reasons, even more so. And you won't jump into something where it's not going to be as beneficial for you both. Unless you're looking for security and comfort to latch on and go, okay, I need this partner, or I need this thing. Like, love doesn't latch on. Love does not hold on. So if you're with a relationship or you're doing a job or something that you claim to love and you're squeezing it for dear life, it's not love. It's not love. Alan Watts has that, where he's saying a little girl, the parents took her to the pet shop, and she got this little rabbit, and she loved the little rabbit. She took it home, and she was hugging it, and she loved it so tight, didn't want to let it go. When she got home, she'd killed it. She'd squeezed it, give it too much thought it was love, but it can be overbearing.
So tying in with that, I'm going to go into the point of when you're in a relationship with someone, or when you get into any sort of relationship, so you're seeing someone, you're dating someone, etc. I felt like this was a huge part of my life, and when I woke up from it, I realized that, okay, I can't go back to doing that. So you have to separate the love and the lust. You have to separate the two. And people say they work hand in hand and they coincide in it. Yeah, they probably do as well. But then the issue with love and lust is, so let's say you get into a relationship with a person and things are going great, you've just gone past the honeymoon phase, and now you're in the phase where reality's kicked in, and even then you're dealing with it really well. But there's this thing that you should be asking yourself, especially as a guy with a girl. I don't know if it's the same that happens with the same-sex partners, but I definitely know it happens in heterosexuals. So when you're with someone, you've got to ask yourself, okay, why am I with this person now? Once in a while, just ask yourself, when you're on your own, if that person's away from you for like a week or so, or maybe a month, ask yourself, am I with this person for the right reason? So am I with this person because the sex is great, because I enjoy the sex, because this person's providing me a service? And it's a bit weird to ask yourself that kind of questions, but am I with this person because the physical side and the sex is great, or am I with this person because I truly want to be with this person, or I truly want to date this person? And yeah, sometimes you get into a situation where, because the sex is so good and everything physical is so good and the way she makes you feel is so good, you're not willing to let go of that. And it happens in the other way around. A lot of women will stay with shitty guys because they feel as though, even though this person is really shitty to them, that 10% or that 20% that they spend making them feel good is so good. So they're not willing to let go of that. So you as a person, especially as a guy, you should ask yourself, am I with this person because the physical side or the way the person makes me feel is great, or am I with the person because I genuinely want to be with that person? You will find out in most scenarios that you just want to be with that person because of how they make you feel, and not because you actually want to be with that person. And again, a large portion of that in the culture we live in, we tend to throw sex into the mix. What is it, after the third date, you're having sex with that person, and they just think it's a load of bollocks. I really think that people need to, once in a while, and I said it to a girl I was seeing a while back, and I don't think she fully understood what I meant, and she took it personally, and she thought she was the problem. But I said, no. It's the fact that if I'm asking this question, it means that I want to be with you for the right reasons, not because all the physical parts are great, because I don't want to turn around to you and say, look, I actually don't like you anymore, but because the sex is great, I'm going to stay with you. How would a person feel in that scenario? So as a person, you have to sometimes just take a step back. Maybe when you guys are not together, when the person's gone home or gone away for a bit, just sit there in the corner and just say, do I actually want to be with this person because I really love the person they are, or is it because of the physical side of it? And I mentioned that a few times now, but I think it's something that you have to think about. I don't know what
I agree, and not just applied to the physicality, but also a lot of people stay in relationships because of fear. Oh, I'm getting older, or I'm not going to find the right person, or this person is alright, they've got these nice things, but it's like, how honest will you be with yourself about those situations? Like, what is it that you're getting from this person, and why? And such a good question to ask, why am I with this person now? And refreshing up that, because that can reinvigorate the love and go, oh yeah, because they're like this and they're that person, and they're great to be around, and I compliment them too, and everything works. Like, great, as long as everything's alright. But if it's more on the negative side, or it's fear-based, or you're afraid that there's nobody else out there, like, the relationship isn't it's not a healthy ship, And I think also, like, how we do what we do, the same applies to jobs. Working with so many individuals on self-development level is, I like my job, it pays the bills, but it's not what I'm passionate about, it's not what I love. And okay, well, how do you do the job? How do you create that job that you love, that is your passion? Well, I'd have to do this and study this and spend time on weekends doing that, and go, all right, that's probably worth doing then, because you're going to be in this situation for the rest of your life otherwise. It's seeing that, but that requires effort, that requires a bit of confidence and belief, or it requires trying something new, or spending money where you might not get money back, but you be in love with the whole thing, the whole process, and you're already going to have a better quality of life because you're enjoying it. It's if we're looking out through the fear-based, as there might not be anybody else there, I might not succeed in that job. Those might be not, so like, obviously be sensible, have a sensible mind, but don't give up your heart to the cold mind, because the mind is cold and it's just information or worry or concern or thoughts, while your heart will say, go that way. That thing that your heart's always telling you to do, to be in that relationship, to not be in that relationship, to go for that job. Listen to it, have the fire, the strength, the courage, and the belief, and the trust, and the surrender to go, my heart knows more. And there's steps to that. There are 100% steps to get to that point where we can live from. Which, if anybody wants to know, you can give me a shout, talk to me, and our chat as well can definitely help with that. There are steps to following that love and knowing what it is, but you got to follow your heart. That's our way into love, into turning life into love. And just a bit on the spiritual effects of love is the energy that puts you in. Like, people are naturally attracted to things that look nice, or they smell nice, or they make people feel nice. Like, if you are full of love and your energy's raising, your frequency changes, your life will attract more love. And again, this takes awareness and work to put the steps into place to, right, I see this thing, it pisses me off and I get angry and I lose all love because I've dropped down. How do I turn that into love? What can I learn from it? What can it teach me? How can I switch it into love? From, was that podcast with Joe Rogan? What was that fella's name?
Raghunath Campo.
Yes, he said a great quote that I wrote down, and it was train yourself to see the greatness in other people. And I was like, I like that. It's so simple and so powerful that whatever I see, when my mind will want to judge somebody or want to criticize or want to compare, it's like, stop that, find the greatness, or in this case, find the love. What can you love about that person? And for me, greatness is quite easy to work with, because everybody's great. Everybody's got a greatness inside them. It could be something you like about that person, the smallest thing, or that they're being honest, or wherever. Like, just find that great aspect in them, or find that thing to love, and you're infusing that in your life. The more we do that throughout the day, so you raise that energy up because you feel good when you're feeling love. Your vibration changes, your frequency changes, so your whole life can change when we give to love. It's powerful. It's not, I used to have a big thing with love that it was just a word, everyone says it, everyone sings about it, everyone talks about it, and that's the problem, is it's muddy water until you feel love, until you know what love is, until you know that you alone are capable of it, because you are made of love. And when you tap into that and you feel it, you need nothing. You've got it, you've done it. Everything else, the tools, the relationships, the jobs, the ups, the downs, they're just the experience then, because you love. Invincible, you know?
Sure. I think your breathwork really does help. If you have any issues when like you had issues in your past relationship and you haven't come to terms with them or addressed them. It's a great way of dealing with those situations, clearing those pathways and then starting off fresh. So that's why it's really important to have a phase after one relationship's ended where you focus on yourself, maybe 6 months, maybe about 8 months, just focusing on yourself and understanding that, okay, what was it in that relationship that caused problems? So I found something quite interesting. I was listening to this monk, I can't remember his name now. God, it was in my head there. And he said he has this really amazing system and it's based on the Vedic system. So he says that, and something I actually used for my recent injury, so my recent climbing injury, I had an elbow injury, and I used it to deal with that situation. Now I've come to terms with it. So that injury and the sort of the effects of that injury psychologically don't bother me anymore. They don't affect me on a general basis. So he says that you have this incompletion pattern. So if you imagine a picture in your head right now where you have this tree that's grown and you've got the roots underneath, the roots are the emotions that you haven't addressed, the feelings that you haven't addressed, and the general sense of a lack of control that you haven't fully come to terms with. So those are the poison or the roots that have created this tree that's grown, and the tree that's grown is called the incompletion pattern. So you've got these moments. So let me give you the scenario that he gives, and I'll give you a scenario that relates to what I've gone through. So he talks about this child he met 40 years ago, 10-year-old child he met. And this 10-year-old child was adamant to go fishing with his father and a couple of people that were friends with his father. He went fishing, and as he went into the water, he felt something underneath the water that was moving underneath his feet. And as that happened, he saw a fin come up, and he shat his pants. He literally got out of the water, and he was terrified of the water. And many years later, he was still replaying that scenario in his head, and the feeling still brought, this was when he was 40 years old or 50 years old, and it brought a feeling of angst and just terror in him, and he hadn't come to terms with the feelings. So what this monk said was for him to do is to replay that scenario. So not to remember the scenario, but to replay it. So put yourself back into that 10-year-old child that was in that scenario again. Go through the whole situation again. Imagine you're that 9-year-old or 10-year-old child again, and replay the entire thing again to the best of your ability. Try and remember, just try and replay and not remember it. So by doing that, what usually happens is now that you are in a position of safety, it's 40 years have passed on, you're in a much better place in life, you're no longer in that environment which caused the fear, you know that you're safe. So the brain will automatically start to let go of that. So the roots of those issues, they'll start to let go of that. But you have to replay that scenario. This is what modern day psychiatrists and psychologists do. They sit you down and they tell you to talk about a traumatic scenario and go over it. So it's going through those incompletion patterns and completing those patterns and letting go. So it turned out that dorsal fin that he saw was just a dolphin. It wasn't anything terrifying. But because he created this scenario in his head and he created this fear, most of the situation that I played in that environment that happened was all in his head. So he amped it up, he exaggerated it. So it went from a tiny little dorsal fin into this massive dorsal fin. And again, so you create these little stories in your head to kind of defend what's happened. And it's the body's mechanism for dealing with anxiety. So let me give you another scenario. So if you're walking, let's say you're a caveman and you're walking in these long grasses and you see the grass like shiver a bit, and you think, shit, what's in there? And suddenly a tiger pounces on you, and you've literally barely made it from that scenario. What happens is whenever you go to that situation again, or whenever you go through any other situation where you see grasses ruffle again, it's going to cause that anxiety to kick in. So it's a safety mechanism put in there to teach us that, okay, you need to reevaluate the situation. From past experience, it's caused a bad outcome. Out of one scenario, it's caused a bad outcome. It's understanding that could happen again, but it most likely won't happen again. Just be aware. So if that happens again, I've already got the responses conditioned in me to deal with that situation. So that's where it's created. So going back to this whole thing, I had the same thing with my elbow. So when I fell off the wall when I was climbing, I remember sitting at the hospital in the A&E, department just waiting for my scan, and I was replaying that scenario. And I think I do it by accident. I just kind of replay scenarios over and over again, maybe because I think about things way too much. And I didn't realize I was doing this until I started watching this video and understanding that actually by doing that, that's the best thing you can do, is to replay that situation, play it out exactly how it is. And then maybe you won't heal from it on the first day or the first week or the second week, etc. It might take a month or maybe even 6 months, depending on the severity of the situation. But it will treat itself as long as you play that scenario to the best of its ability in your head. So you replay it, not remember it.
Yeah.
Don't try and remember it, because by remembering it, you're just trying to project whatever you had.
You'll add the dramas in there rather than the true clear perception.
Exactly. So really play that memory vividly, and it will help you address that issue, so that incompletion pattern becomes complete, and you chop that tree down and you let go. So he talks about that, and I was like, wow, that's some deep shit. And he was doing it in the sense of wealth, and that's all he was talking about. So I clicked on that video by accident because they said how to cultivate wealth in your life and draw things into your life. And he says a lot of people have this idea about money being this bad thing. You know, people that are rich are always bad, and this and that. People that are poor are always good. A lot of the times, wealth is not the factor. The factor is a person is already bad as a person, or a person is already good, whether you attach money to it or not. So if you take all the money away from a bad person, that bad person is still going to be bad. And if you take all the money away from a good person, that good person will still act good, you know, to a certain degree. And it depends on your character, not on your financial situation. So he says, in order to address the situation of wealth, is to understand that money is not the problem. Is to understand that money will give you opportunity to serve the world more, and to understand that not all rich people are bad. And most of them are actually start off in a very poor circumstance, like we talked about earlier. They come from a very troubled background and they get to where they are. So don't ever look at a rich person and feel a sense of, oh, this person doesn't deserve what he's got and he's been given whatever. Because by doing that, you create this environment where you tell yourself that any time that you find wealth or you find someone rich, it's bad. So you never truly bring it for yourself. You're always shying away from it, saying that this shit is not good for me because it's going to make me into that person as well. So understand that wealth isn't bad. And from that, I started to look at my injury, and I started looking at that and thinking, okay, I was doing exactly the same thing but not doing it consciously. But now I understand there's this protocol itself that exists where you complete whatever you've gone through, whatever insecurities you have, whether it's wealth, accidents, traumatic scenarios where you've been in really life and death situations like a car crash or something. Replay that scenario, go through it over and over again to its fullest detail, and then what'll happen is, over the course of maybe even the first session, if you haven't gone back to that scenario in 40 years, maybe in the first session it will allow you to let go of it. And going back to relationships, it's the same thing. So replay what caused the downfall of that relationship. What was it that caused the downfall? Play that entire scenario again, and you realize that you put all this stuff in there just in place to kind of defend yourself. And once you let go of that, then you can let go of that feeling of that relationship, of the anxiety or the sort of animosity you had towards that person. So when you said you were good friends with your partners, that's probably one of the biggest reasons, is because you've let go of whatever you've had with that person, and you've come to terms with it in a positive way. Whereas a lot of people will just say, oh, I've got sour grapes with this person, and they end it at that. Yes, you might have ended it sour, but try and replay that scenario and understand that it was never. It wasn't meant to be in a sour scenario. It wasn't personal. It just happened, and it needed to have ended, and you just need to let go of that. So yeah, incompletion patterns, address them. Yeah,
massive, man. It's really, really solid advice. That I think a lot of people can take so much from that. Just play it back, see it through, and also looking with love. Again, the more we can see the love in the thing, in life itself, even these tough situations or the pains and the traumas, is what can I experience from it? What can I learn from it? Rather than that thing personally did this, and this to me. It's a scenario, it was an event, it was a happening, and it's going to leave an emotional effect. But we don't have to cling on and hold on to that, especially when we have that ability to play it back through and start that detachment. Because when I think it's any memory which has been in our head for 6 months or more, there's a trauma there. If we've not completed a release of it, or we've not fully understood it or integrated it,
the scarring there.
If it comes back and it's got an emotional charge, then there's still issue with it. While if we can play that memory back and not feel anything, then it's dealt
you
with,
let
you know,
go,
or
yeah.
you can just recall the memories for your own enjoyment or your own fondness.
Yeah, then you have more appreciation for what you had in that moment in time, the good times. Because then you let go of all the bad times and you understand that, hey, well, it served me. It was great for me in that moment in time. And now I'm okay where I am right now. So, yeah, I think that's perfect. It's a great place to wrap up.
Yeah, man.
How long have we gone for?
1 hour 20.
Okay, shit. This will be our longest one then. We're breaking the records of that podcast. Hopefully we don't cross the 2 hour mark unless it's really, really deep and interesting.
Yeah.
Because then our viewers will just be like, God, this is getting longer and longer per podcast. Okay, so this was podcast number 7. What do we talk about? Mainly love, universal love.
Love, man. All you need is love. The Beatles said it.
Okay, we will see you in the next podcast. Just remember, guys, this podcast is on Instagram, it's on YouTube, and it's on SoundCloud. We're still trying to sort this whole Spotify thing out. We're going to talk to a friend about it and see if he could help us out with it. And yeah, hopefully we can get that shit sorted out. That's pretty much it. Anything else you want to say, Craig?
No, man. Thank you for your time once again, brother.
No worries at all. We'll see you guys in the next podcast.